right, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. My name is Kim Smith. I am the mayor of Onalaska, and I just want to welcome you to this session that we wanted to have to share with people more information about being on city council or even a city committee. If you're interested in serving in your local government, we definitely want to give you the tools and information to help educate yourself to see if this is something that would really be for you. There's always ways that you can help serve, and this is definitely something that's not for everyone, but it may be for you. And we'd like you to give it a chance if you're interested in it. The reason we're having this session right now is because now is the time if you were thinking of running for an elected position of alderperson, now is the time where you would be taking out those papers and circulating them in order to get your name on the ballot. We do have 6 alderpersons representing the city of Onalaska. They're divided into 3 districts. There's 2 alderpersons from each of those 3 districts, and they each serve a 2-year term. And so that alternates. So each year, 3 are elected, 1 from each of the 3 districts. And so your district, whichever it may be, is having 1 elected each year. So this would be the time to do it. I'll turn it over to our city clerk, Joanne Marcon now, and she can describe how that process works, just for getting your name on the ballot. And then we'll just kind of move through what happens after that and when you're actually elected, what all the commitment is, kind of chronologically. So go ahead, Joanne.
All right, thank you, Mayor. My name is Joanne Marcon. I am the city clerk for the city of Onalaska, and I am the local filing officer for all of your candidate paperwork. So you can come to me to get the paperwork, or you can also get it online. If you went to the city of Onalaska's website, you can find that under elections and candidates and campaigns, and you're able to get all of the forms there. Particularly, there's a tab for 2026 candidate information in all forms. I recommend clicking on that link because it does contain a couple pages where we give you additional information as far as the important dates that you need to know. So if you were going to run for office for the spring election, December 1st is the first day that you can start to circulate nomination papers. December 26th is the date if you are already an incumbent and you have a seat on the council. You need to notify me by December 26th at 5 p.m. if you do not plan to run again. January 6th of 2026 at 5 p.m. is the deadline that you need to turn in your nomination papers to me. If they're turned in at 5:01, unfortunately, you've missed the deadline and you would not be on the ballot. Another thing to remember when turning in your nomination papers is that once they've been submitted to me and they are all complete, you're not going to be disqualified because you didn't get enough signatures or there was something else wrong with your paperwork. If your paperwork is correct and it's turned in to me, you will be on the ballot. So it's not one of those things that you can turn in your paperwork and come back later and say, oh, I've changed my mind. I don't want to be on the ballot anymore. So once you've turned in your paperwork and everything is correct, you have enough signatures, you will be on the ballot. So just make sure that you are comfortable knowing that when you turn in your paperwork. On February 17th of 2026 will be the spring primary, and that is only if required. So currently, if we have 2 alderpersons take out paperwork, there would not be the need for a primary in that district. If we have 3 people turn in their paperwork for a particular district, then there would be a need for a primary in that particular district. So we might end up with a primary in only one district. We might end up with a primary citywide, depending on how many people turn in paperwork. But if we end up needing a primary, that will take place on February 17th. The general election itself takes place on April 7th of 2026. And you will have 3 different forms that you need to turn in to me. The first one is your declaration of candidacy form. And basically, you should be filling that out and turning that in as soon as you've made the decision to run. And on that form, you're going to be listing on there specifically how you want your name to appear on the ballot. So spend a little time thinking about that. You are allowed to use an abbreviation of your name. If your name is Robert, you can put Bob on the ballot. It does need to be some version of your name, though. And it cannot include a title. So if you do have doctor as part of your title, you cannot list that on the ballot. It does need to be notarized. So feel free to come into City Hall. There's several of us here that can notarize that document for you. So do not sign it until you come before us, and then we can notarize your signature. The other thing that you would need to fill out is campaign finance paperwork. And that needs to be turned in again as soon as you've made that decision, you're going to be running for office. And on your campaign finance paperwork, that is where you're going to be listing your bank account information as far as where you're going to be tracking your expenses, any donations that are received. You don't have to appoint a treasurer. A lot of local candidates just appoint themselves as treasurer, so you are allowed to do that. You also are not required to open a separate banking account for your candidacy, although it is recommended because it is much cleaner to do so to keep track of your donations and expenses. And then finally, the third document that you need to turn into me is your nomination papers. And that is where you're going to be going around to people in your district and asking them to support having your name on the ballot. And for the city of Onalaska, you're required to get a minimum of 20 signatures, a maximum of 40. I recommend that you get more than the minimum of 20 because occasionally a signature does need to be thrown out because it was illegible, or maybe it was somebody that was not in the correct district that you obtained the signature from. So I would recommend getting closer to the 40. Definitely do not do just 20 because it is possible that we would have to throw out a couple of signatures and then you would not have enough. Another thing that I would really encourage you to take the time to look at is the header on the nomination papers. It's this first section right here at the top. That's where you're going to be listing your name, your office, the date of the election. The date of the election, do not list the primary date. The date of the election is going to be that April 7th date. So that would be the date that people are actually going to be voting for you to become their next alderperson, is on the April 7th date. Feel free to fill out the header and then make copies of that. Like once you've filled it out, you feel good about it, you can even ask me to review it for you ahead of time. I'm happy to do that. Just to make sure that there's no errors, because if there's errors in the header, it might disqualify all the signatures that you've received on that page. So really take the time to make sure everything is spelled out correctly in the header. Happy to look at it. And then you could make copies of that to have people sign. At the bottom of that form is you're signing off as certifying that you are the circulator of that. It doesn't have to be you. You could have a spouse, a neighbor go around with signature papers for you as well. Another thing that is very important is that they are not signing that certification until they've received all the signatures on that page. They can't sign a circulator prior to receiving the signatures. I think that's all that I have as far as nomination papers are involved. Like I said, feel free to come into City Hall. We've got hard copies printed up here for you, so we can hand them to you, go over any questions that you have in person, or you can obtain them online. And feel free to reach out to me with any questions.
Yeah, thank you for that, Joanne. I think you did a really good job covering all the main points. And I just want to stress that, no matter who you are, we like to have a lot of people running for office. It is the best when we have more people running and we're giving a lot of opportunities for our voters to select people who are representing them. So if you're on the fence about it, don't be afraid to reach out to any one of the current electeds or city staff for more information or more help. And as Joanne said, they are happy to look over your paperwork and assist you with filling these out. They're the experts. They want them filled out correctly. Nobody wants to disqualify your paperwork because of an error. We want you to be successful in getting that completed. Did anyone else want to add anything before we move on to the next section? Okay, so that was basically the election process. So probably what most people would want to hear about. And we'll just briefly go over some other things that you may be curious about. So in Onalaska, we have kind of three categories of elected people for our city, the city of Onalaska, and it follows the basic government sections. So we have under the judicial branch, we do have an elected judge. Our court is our municipal court. We do cooperatively with a bunch of other communities in our area. Amanda, can you name off what they all are? Maybe Amanda can talk better for the municipal court because she participates with that. Why don't you talk
Yeah.
about the municipal court, Amanda? Then we can all have a section.
So the municipal court is the Village of Holmen, the Village of West Salem, the village of Bangor, the city of Onalaska, the town of Campbell, and the town of Shelby. And so we all joined together for the municipal court, and the municipal court judge needs to be a resident of one of those municipalities, and they are elected for a 4-year term. Our most recent judge was elected in 2024, and so that position will be up again for re-election in 2028.
Okay, thank you. And then the next branch of the government would be the executive branch, and that would be the branch that the mayor oversees, which is my position. I also serve a 4-year term, and the mayor can be elected from any one of the 4 districts, and I represent all 4 of the districts. I specifically oversee the police and fire, whose job is to enforce the rules of the city.
Just to clarify, we only have 3 districts.
Oh, what did I say? I said 4. I don't know why I said 4. Thank you for correcting me, Amanda. That's why we have a city attorney on staff to make sure we are following all the rules. I have no idea why I said that. And then the council is the legislative branch of the government, and they're the ones that are making the ordinances, which are like laws, the rules that we have to follow. And that is the part where our city administrator is part of. So maybe Rick can talk a little bit about that. Welcome, Rick.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Rick Niemeyer. I'm the city administrator here in Onalaska. As the mayor indicated, I do answer to council. So I oversee the day-to-day operations around the city, work closely with council, with the mayor and the department heads across the city to make sure that the services being provided by the city are maintained at a good level. I also implement any policies that are established by council through the use of working with department heads and other staff. One of the biggest policies that council members do adopt would be the budget. So each year, the operating budget is put together by myself, along with the assistance of department heads and their staff, presented to council, and council does adopt it based on the changes that they want to make. So those are some of the main criteria or main issues that are dealt with through the city administrator's office.
Thank you for that. So we were going to talk a little bit about, well, first, I think we already mentioned the council term was 2 years. The councilors do take on a salary. It is 5.
I believe it's close. I can't guarantee accuracy, but I think it is for those elected in 2026. I believe it will be $6,288.36 roughly
For the year.
for the year.
Is that paid once a month or 2 times a month? We don't know.
I think it's paid monthly, but I'm not sure.
I believe it's monthly as well.
I think it's paid monthly too.
Once a month.
Once a month. Okay, thank you for that. And that is Alderperson Diane Wolf. Thank you. As far as what a council person does, the council person, as Rick said, one of the biggest responsibilities of the council person is to pass the budget of the city, both the capital improvement budget and the operating budget. And like with all budgets, that is really a commitment to what the city will be doing for the next year and beyond. With the capital improvement budget, that commits the city, for up to 20 years of committed borrowing. So really defines what the city will be or will not be doing in the future. And the city of Onalaska is traditionally a very fiscally conservative city. And so those budget decisions can be very, very tough. And we have limited resources, as does everybody. So that I would say is the number one responsibility of the council. But then additionally, setting those ordinances, which are the laws, doing long range planning and shorter range planning for comprehensive planning and strategic planning to make sure that our community continues to prioritize those things that we value here in Onalaska, which I'm sure as residents, you know what those are. Or maybe the ones that you would like to promote if you were in the elected position. They also supervise the city administrator, who then in turn oversees the city staff. As far as a time commitment, these actions take place through the city meeting. So the city council meets one time per month. That meeting is always on the second Tuesday. In a complicated way, it's the second Tuesday following the first. How does it go? The second Tuesday after the first Monday? So that is a monthly meeting, and then counselors are assigned to committees. We usually divide the counselors between the Administrative and Finance Committee or the Public Works Committee. So those are the two main committees that people will serve on, either one or the other of those. And then there are several other working group committees that counselors usually are on two of those other committees that meet at various times throughout the month, and there may be other assignments. So the workload is not tremendous, but there is a lot of reading associated with it. And some of the things that I've heard from new counselors is they didn't know there was going to be so much reading. You know, you can get the YouTube version of meetings a lot of times now, but it's usually easier to just read the minutes, and you are expected to read the minutes, you know, because you'll be approving those minutes at a future meeting. And so sometimes people just don't realize that you do have to do a lot of reading, sometimes researching things or looking into them to make sure you're well informed on issues. It's usually very helpful if you have an awareness of what's going on with state law, sometimes with the county level, or even just with our neighbors in the news. Different things will affect us, and it's helpful if you can have a general understanding of that. It's not something you need to learn ahead of time. So if you haven't been a student of government and you don't have a lot of prior knowledge, it's no problem. Everybody can learn, and we would be welcoming and definitely very helpful if you're interested in getting involved now. Does anyone have anything they'd like to add on that vein?
I would just jump into that. If being a common council member is something that you're maybe not quite ready for, but you're interested in serving the city in other ways, we do have several committees, commissions, and boards that have residents that sit on them. And so if you have any interest in maybe focusing in on just one committee a month, that's a fairly light commitment for the most part. And we do have citizen members on our Board of Zoning Appeals, our Community Development Authority, our Long Range Planning Committee, our Plan Commission, our Police and Fire Commission, our Parks, Recreation, and Library Commission, as well as, I believe, our Room Tax Commission. So there's kind of something for everybody there, and there's a form on our website that you can fill out if you are interested in joining committee or commission or board.
Yep, thank you for that, Amanda. And yep, you can definitely just go ahead and fill that out on the website, or you can email me directly. Either way is fine, and we can talk more about that. Or if you're a phone call person, you can just give a phone call too. Okay, anyone else want to add anything there?
I was just going to clarify that the council does meet the second Tuesday of the month.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, and then if you are elected as an alderperson, I know one thing that some people are concerned about is like, what kind of resources do you need? So there is at times, or there is the availability to attend meetings virtually, but it is always better to build relationships with people if you can attend in person. You will be provided with either a tablet or a laptop, some sort of computer type device. I'm not sure exactly what it will be in the future. But so that you will be able to access city
Your
stuff.
email and
And-
agenda and meetings and participate in meetings.
What other equipment? And there is an office space at City Hall for counselors. You'll have a mailbox at City Hall where
You
you
have
will
access to a
receive
printer
access to a printer.
City cell
What
phone.
else?
and a city-provided cell phone.
Okay. So those are the resources that will be provided.
The council does also have a budget for whether it be office supplies or other miscellaneous items that would be accessible as well.
And there are training opportunities that are offered both through CIVMIC, which is our insurance organization, and through the League of Municipalities that offer, there's the basic municipal budgeting course, which is really good one. There's Board of Review. There is there's multiple different specific ones that you may be interested in if you are elected that you could attend. Amanda, did you want to talk about conflict of interest or ethics?
Yeah, so as an elected official, you are still subject to a code of ethics. You can review that in Chapter 5 of the city ordinance. Probably the provision that comes up most often in local government is conflicts of interest. And so there are sort of actual conflicts of interest where you have a financial stake in the matter, and then there are perceived conflict of interest where the appearance of a conflict exists, even though you may not obtain a financial benefit from it. So an example could be that if you are on a city committee or commission or board or a council member, perhaps the business that you work for or the business that you own wants to get a permit from the city, that would be something where it could be a conflict of interest, and you may need to abstain from participating in discussion or voting on that matter. Or you may sit on a board for another organization and they need something from the city and they bring forward a request. And so because of your affiliation with that and a perceived conflict, you at times may need to abstain from a particular matter on an agenda.
Thank you for that. Like a specific example, we're all from a community, where we live, and I've had a situation where perhaps one of my friends has something before the planning committee. And so then I need to remove myself from that discussion and that vote because those people are my friends. And so I can't participate in anything to do with that. Okay, anyone else have anything they would like to add? Okay, well, I hope this session was helpful. We tried to cover the basics.
Mayor, if you don't mind, I guess I will jump back
Go
in
ahead.
one more
Yeah,
time, if that's okay.
Yes.
When discussing turning in your nomination papers, I would just encourage you to do it as early as possible. In the event that I would find any inaccuracies or deficiencies in your paperwork, the sooner I find it, the sooner I can tell you, and you can go out and collect more signatures. So if you waited until that last day and the final minute to turn it in, and there's some errors, it would be too late to correct it. So the sooner you can get it turned in, it'll be beneficial to you as well. And then as far as finding out what district you're in, of course, I can help you with that. But we also have a map on the City of Alaska's website under the candidates and campaigns page. If you scroll to the bottom, there's a tab for Aldermanic District Map. And if you click on that, you'll be able to see where you can safely obtain your signatures to get on your nomination papers. And then the other thing is that if you win the election, your first day on the council will be on Tuesday, April 21st at our annual organizational meeting.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, well, thank you all for joining us today. I hope this information was helpful, and we hope to see lots of you taking out papers to run for alderperson in the city of Onalaska. And if that seems like it's too much, for sure, fill out that form to join a committee for the city of Onalaska. Thank you.